After helping over 2,500 restaurants grow their revenue, I've discovered a pattern that plagues almost every multi-location restaurant group, and that is those underperforming locations that you just can't seem to match your best performing locations. And so what I am talking about here is a real New York chain with 11 locations where 9 were crushing it when they were working with us, but 2 were consistently down year over year. And the owners were frustrated because they were using the same menu, same branding, same marketing budget across all locations, but they just couldn't figure out, how do we fix these 2 underperformers? And so today I'm breaking down exactly how we transform those struggling locations using hyper local marketing strategies and our chain marketing framework. And we'll cover the exact Subway targeting strategies that turn things around and how our software solution Dishio helped capture lost customer data to drive additional revenue streams. And so if you're watching this video and you're running multiple restaurant locations and tired of inconsistent performance across your portfolio, then this video might be one of the most important videos you watch this year. And if this is your first time watching a video from our channel, I'm Jace, I'm the COO at Dineline, and we've spent tens of millions of dollars testing what actually works in restaurant marketing. And so what we do for restaurants is we provide a done-for-you marketing solution that's helped over 2,500 restaurants drive consistent growth. All right, so what exactly was happening with this New York restaurant chain? On paper, everything should have been working equally well across all locations. It was the same food, same quality, same service standards, same marketing materials. But when we dug into the numbers, we found something very interesting. And that is that the 2 underperforming locations were actually losing a ton of money. One was down 15% and one was down 12% year over year, while the other locations were growing at 7 to 10% year over year. And the owners considered actually shutting down the 2 underperforming locations completely. And so luckily they partnered with us, so that didn't happen. But here's what most restaurant groups miss is location specific factors often matter more than just maintaining brand consistency. By the way, that's not to say that brand consistency isn't important. It absolutely is. But when you're trying to solve for performance gaps like these, the answer isn't more generic brand marketing. It's about shifting to a local marketing approach that addresses the unique dynamics of each location. And when we analyzed the data, we discovered something that the owners had actually overlooked, and that was that their 2 underperforming locations were right next to major subway and train stations in New York. And in this case, instead of seeing that as an advantage, they were treating these locations the same way that they treated all their other suburban ones. And that's where we identified the gap was and the opportunity really stood out. So here's what we did differently. First, we mapped out every subway and train line within a 10 station radius of those restaurants. Then we built hyper-targeted campaigns specifically for commuters. Next, we used geo-targeted ads, meaning mobile ads that showed up on people's phones, targeting devices frequently seen at those subway stations. And in this case, during peak commuting hours, which were 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 7 p.m. And the ads featured special commuter-only offers that were only valid during those exact windows. And what made this strategy work wasn't just the timing, it was the fact that we stopped treating this like a one-size-fits-all branding campaign, and instead, we built something local and strategic, driving foot traffic from people who were already just steps away from the restaurant, now giving them a reason to act right then and there. And so after we dialed in the hyper local subway strategy, the next question was, well, how do we allocate the marketing budget to actually drive results? And here's where most restaurant groups get it wrong. They split the marketing budget evenly across all locations. And on the surface, it feels fair, but in reality, it makes no sense. And I'll explain exactly why. Because not every location needs the same level of marketing support. In this particular case, the 2 struggling locations needed more attention while the top performing ones were already killing it and holding on their own. So we shifted the resources from the best performing to the worst performing. And we temporarily increased the marketing budget for the underperforming stores from $3,000 to $5,000 per month in spend. And we kept the top performers at a steady $3,000 a month. And we also set crystal clear KPIs to make sure that the marketing dollars that we were spending were making an impact. Now, at first, the owners were hesitant when we presented it in this plan. Their mindset was, why pour money into the worst performing locations? But when we showed them the math, it was simple. Those locations had the most room to grow, which meant that they had the highest potential for return when it came to allocating marketing spend. And here's a nuance that I think a lot of restaurant owners struggle with is the idea of spending money to make money, especially when you're used to thinking in terms of cost cutting. In slow seasons, the reflex is to cut. When performance dips, just cut. And that mindset works in the kitchen with labor, with food costs. But when it comes to direct response marketing, you can track what you're spending and what you're earning. And so it's just an entirely different game. And I know what I'm saying might feel counterintuitive, but sometimes you can spend your way out of a performance problem. That's what we did here, and we've done the same thing before. And once restaurant groups see the return, they usually never go back to flat budgeting again after we show them how to properly allocate these budgets. All right, so now that we've covered how we reallocated the budget, let's talk about the part that everyone actually wants to know, which is what were the results? And if I'm being honest, the results came in faster than we expected. After just 60 days, the first location went from down 15% year over year to up 17% year over year, and the second location went from down 12% year over year to up 14% year over year. In the same instance, commuter traffic jumped over 30%, and we know that because we were tracking everything on the back end through our advertising. Average ticket in this time frame increased from $28 to $30 and increased to $34 to $36, so they got a nice lift there. Now, here's the part that surprised me even more, is that the top performing locations, which didn't get any extra budget, still improved as well. And I think the reason is simple. We finally were sending the right message to the right customers at each individual location. So we didn't necessarily increase the budget. We were just smarter about the type of people that we were targeting. And by month 3, all locations had stabilized and were performing at similar levels. So everything was now consistent across the board. And when we first started this project, the owners were thinking about shutting down the 2 stores entirely, but at the end, those same 2 locations became a model for future expansion. So now these owners know if things ever start slipping again, they can roll out this proven strategy again and again and again to solve their problem. All right, so now let's get into the next part of this story, which is how we used our software Dishio to take this campaign to the next level. Driving traffic is only half the battle. The real game changer was what happened after those customers walked through the door. And for those of you who are new here to this channel, Dishio is our proprietary software, which we built to solve the biggest problem restaurants face, which is capturing guest data and then using it to drive repeat business. So think about it for a second. How many customers visit your restaurant, have an amazing experience, and then disappear forever? As they're walking out the door, they'll be like, hey, we'll be back, but you have no way to follow up, no control over when or if they come back. And that's essentially what Dishio is solving. So in this case, it's going to turn one-time visitors into repeat customers by capturing their data and then activating it through multiple revenue streams. And so essentially the platform works like this. Guests are going to scan a QR code, which can link to a smart site, which is our mobile landing page designed for quick ordering, booking events, or opting into other offers. We can even replace paper menus with digital menus that not only improve the guest experience, but also allow us to capture pixel data on platforms like Google, Meta, and TikTok. And so when that guest scans that QR code, you're building a marketing database with names, emails, and phone numbers, as well as back-end customer data. Then what we can do is plug guests into flows, which is an automated path that guides them towards whatever revenue stream matters the most to the business. So if you want to push more online orders, private dining, catering events, and more. And the best part about all this is that everything is tracked with real-time analytics across every location. And so in the case of these New York locations, when we rolled out Dishio across all 11 locations in this case study, this is where we were able to see some pretty remarkable results. Because before Dishio, this restaurant group was literally capturing 0% of their in-store customer data, which is in the case of a lot of restaurants. But then within weeks, we are capturing over 40%, creating a gold mine of marketing opportunities that we can use to push to these other revenue channels. And now for the Subway location specifically in our campaign, Dishio's analytics helped us uncover 2 huge untapped opportunities. The first one that we untapped was just a lunch for commuters. So the data showed thousands of people were passing by daily, but barely anybody was stopping by for lunch. So we launched an express lunch program that guaranteed 15-minute service times promoted through geo-targeted ads during morning commute hours at the 10 closest Subway stops. So this is how we can use that data and get strategic. And the second thing that we identified is the catering for businesses. So Dishio revealed that a large portion of one-time visitors were actually nearby in corporate offices. And so we built a dedicated catering flow that automatically suggested catering options to customers that identified as professionals. This one change increased catering orders by 10% in just 60 days. And so the beauty of Dishio is in the insight. We were able to see exactly which menu items performed best with commuters versus local residents. Commuters wanted that fast grab and go items, and then evening diners lingered a little bit longer getting off of work. They wanted to order more alcohol and hang out. So this solution can seem kind of obvious, but without the data, we were completely guessing, and so was this restaurant before this. By creating these specialized flows within Dishio, we were able to capture guest data and instantly direct each customer towards the most relevant offering based on their behavior and needs. All right, so let's wrap this up with the biggest takeaway I want you to remember, especially if you're running a restaurant group. If there's one thing that I want to get across in the video, it's this. Stop treating all your locations the same. I know that seems obvious, especially if you've got different concepts, but you'd be surprised how often restaurant groups use the same exact marketing playbook across the board. In a lot of cases, each location has its own environment, its own customer base, its own competition. The branding can be consistent, but your marketing strategy should be customized to reflect what's actually happening on the ground. Second, you have to start tracking your marketing performance with the same seriousness as your P&L or cost of goods sold. You are already analyzing each location's performance financially, so why not do the same for your marketing? Whether you're using Dishio or another software or an in-house solution, the point is you need a feedback system. You need to know what you're spending is actually generating in return. Otherwise, you're just guessing, and in business, as you know, guessing is very expensive. And the third takeaway is implementing a system, any system that helps you capture customer data and grow lifetime value. When guests walk through your door, it shouldn't be the end of the story. You should be guiding them towards other revenue channels, online ordering, catering, private events. And the best way to do that is you need some way for them to activate their phone, capture their data, and then you can do these things. And so the goal, right, is to bridge that in-store experience with future purchases, and doing that effectively is what really separates the groups that are thriving from the ones that are just surviving. Because from my experience, once you kind of hit that 10 to 15 location range, your ability to understand and treat each location uniquely is what actually gives you an edge. By building location-specific strategies, reallocating budgets smart, and capturing guest data consistently, you can actually turn your lowest performers into leaders. And I hope that I've shown you how we've been able to do that in the video today. And if you're watching this and you're struggling with inconsistent performance across your locations, or maybe you know that this is what your group needs, but you just don't have the bandwidth to execute, well, I'd love to chat more and see if our team can help. There's a link in the description where you can book a free strategy call with our team below. And hey, if this video gave you any kind of value, do me a favor, hit that button, subscribe. Drop a comment below with your biggest challenge right now running a multi-location restaurant group, or if you want me to clarify anything in this video. I read all the comments, and I might even cover whatever your question is in a future episode. So guys, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.